Welcome to the GUHSDtech Flipgrid Trailblazer Program Overview video. Here's the table of contents for this video. Please pay particular attention to item number 2, the Trailblazer requirements, and item number 6, Blazer Trail.
Flipgrid is a social learning platform that allows educators to post questions, and then students respond to those questions in a video format. Students can also view other classmates' videos and their responses, and then make a response to those classmates. In essence, what's being created is a web of video responses where students then interact with one another through this video platform. This actually is a great platform to allow different students with different learning styles and thinking modalities to respond in their own time and in their own way. One of the benefits of using Flipgrid is when you post a discussion, students have some thinking time to put together a thoughtful and more detailed response. Also, you have the ability to hear the voices of all your students in your classroom, not just those in the immediate group you might be observing. Flipgrid is also an excellent way to connect with students outside the classroom, perhaps in other periods, students from other parts of the school, other schools in general, as well as connecting your students with scientists, researchers, authors, and other notable industry partners from around the world. How will you use Flipgrid in your classroom?
The GUHSDtech Trailblazer program is intended to educate, inspire, and support the use of technology in the classroom. For this Trailblazer series, we'll be looking at Flipgrid, which is a video response platform that helps improve student listening, speaking, and discussion skills. First, we'd like to get started with looking at the overview of your Flipgrid challenge. For this program, you need to plan and implement 3 unique discussion lessons with your students. You need to meet with a digital learning coach, or DLC, at least 2 different times to create and plan your lessons. Lessons must be submitted to a Google form by May 24th. For completion of this program, you can earn up to 4 hours of curriculum writing time. And at the end of the program, after successful completion, you'll receive an official Flipgrid Trailblazer program sticker.
So to get started with Flipgrid, we want to go to flipgrid.com. Once you arrive at their homepage, you'll notice in the top right corner are 3 menu items. The first one here is Educator Login. You will use this if you've already logged into Flipgrid previously and have an account with them. If this is your first time using Flipgrid, you want to use the last menu item here where it says Sign Up. It's free. Select that, and once you arrive at this page, click on the Sign Up with Google button. Once you do that, it'll take you to another page where you might have to add additional information, such as your school site, for example. Once you fill out that information, it'll then lead you into your main landing page within your account. Later on, when you return to the Flipgrid homepage, you would then log in using the Educator Login button. Those of you who've logged in previously before today's session will always use this login. You will select that, log in with Google, and then you'll be taken to the main page within your account. So after you've logged in for the first time, Flipgrid will take you to one of these 2 pages, either My Grids, or it may take you to the Activity page. The Activity page is to see an overview and summary of all the different grid activity that you and your students have. In order to go through and create a Flipgrid, we want to go to this menu option where it says My Grids. Currently, this is a brand new account, and you'll see that I have no grids on my page. In order to go through and create a new grid, I can either use this New Grid button here, or you'll notice down here, there's that same button. I'm going to go ahead and select that, and then I am going to go to the Grid Launchpad. Here at the Grid Launchpad is where you can select certain parameters for your grid. You'll notice that the first thing is to select the type of grid community. Because we are in a managed domain, GUHSD.net, I would recommend that you select your grid community type as the school email domain. The reason why you want to select school email domain is that when students log in, you want them using their GUHSD account. The next thing you'll see is an area for you to name your grid. So for our purposes here, I'm going to name this grid Trailblazers. The next thing you'll notice is the Create a Flip Code box. Here they give you a generic code to access your grid, but you can always change it to whatever it is that you want. Perhaps you want to change it to English period 1 or Science period 5. You can choose whatever it is that you'd like. For this session, I am going to rename my flip code to GUHSD Trailblazers. Next, you'll see that I can then select different types of grid images or even upload my own. I'm just going to select one for now. I kind of like these cats here. And then I'm going to hit Next. Now, remember we selected the school email domain as our community. And so here is where we have to enter our domain so it registers our students when they come in and log in to Flipgrid. So we just need to enter everything it says here after the @ symbol in your school email. So for us, that would be GUHSD.net. What this allows is that students only with a GUHSD.net can enter your grid community. Once I have that, I am going to now create my grid, or in this case, launch my grid. And of course, there is my lovely cat. Here's my title, Trailblazers. There's my code, so that's what it's going to look like. If I want to update and change that, then I would select Customize My Grid. I can go back and change some of those parameters. I am okay with what I see there for right now, and so I am going to select All Set. So this is your grid. In this case, this is the grid that I titled Trailblazers. Up here, there are some things about our grid that we'll discuss in a moment. But one of the things I wanted to talk about first is this idea of topics. Your grid is a place where you include all the different discussions that you can have with your students. Each one of those different discussions that you have is actually labeled a topic. So by default, Flipgrid actually adds 2 topics to a grid that's created. A topic that's called Ideas and another one that's called Introductions. This introduction topic is something that you could share with your students to get them used to using Flipgrid before you actually use the platform with content-specific discussion questions. So, 2 things then. 1, we have a grid. 2, within a grid, there are then these topics, and within my grid of Trailblazers, I can create as many topics as I want. If this was my period 1 science grid, I can create then all my different discussions throughout the year for my period 1 class. So now let's take a look at first editing some of the parameters around our grid. So you'll notice up here at the top, there are a couple things. 1, our flip code that we had. 2, it says here, add co-pilots to your grid. So a co-pilot is just in essence like a co-teacher. You're adding a co-teacher to your grid. And as a participant in the GUHSDtech Trailblazer program, we would like you to add GUHSDtech as a co-pilot or co-teacher to your grid. The reason we'd like you to do this is that whenever you have questions down the road about how to use the platform, having access to your grid will allow us to support you much, much better. So in order to add us as a co-pilot, select that button, type in GUHSDtech@GUHSD.net, and then invite us to be a co-pilot in your grid. The other thing you'll notice down here is some other menu options. The first one is right here, and this is to either keep your grid active. Obviously, you would want to do that for the remainder of the school year, but perhaps next year you're not going to use this grid because you have a new set of students. And so you can hide this grid so anyone who might have access in the past, like your former students, can no longer access this grid any longer. And so you can keep it hidden from the grid menu or the main grid menu of your account. You'll also notice the share grid. And this is where you can share your whole grid. That means that when somebody lands on this page, they can see all your topics. I don't recommend necessarily sharing your whole grid with your students. You want to share individual topics, and that's something that we will address here in a moment. And then the last menu is a drop-down that has a lot of ways in which you can manipulate your grid. And some of them are self-explanatory, others that we can touch upon later when we meet in a one-on-one session.
So we're going to start off this part here by going to the menu item that says My Grids. Here is the view of my grids, and it shows me all the different grids that I have created. Obviously my period 1 and 2, here's the one that we created in this video, Trailblazers. I can continue to create more grids by adding them for each period that I might have. So that's how we create a grid. Now let's talk about how we create a topic within a grid to share with our students and have our students respond to one. So I'm going to create a topic here within my Trailblazer grid, and I'm going to select New Topic. And now I need to fill out a lot of the details of how I want my my topic displayed, how my students are going to interact with that topic in different ways. So I need to do a little bit of work here. So the first thing I'm going to do is title my topic Reflection. I can choose how long I want my students' responses to be. After this set amount of time, it'll stop recording student responses. And so some responses might be longer or shorter. I'm just going to select one 30 seconds, and make sure you keep this part in mind. The longer the discussion students have in the video that they're getting recorded, and the more interactions they have, the longer you might have to watch these videos. So keep that time piece in mind as you create topics and create things for your students to do and respond to. I could give a little topic tip to help my students respond to the question that I'm going to have, and then I can pre-select a date when I want that topic to display within my grid if I so choose. I'm now going to create my question. I'm going to have my question say, what do you think about Flipgrid? Okay, so now I have my topic question that I want my students to respond to. I can go in and I can change some settings like video moderation. Perhaps before student discussions go public on a grid for other students to view, maybe you might want to take a look at their videos first, and then you can approve which ones go up onto the public grid. So that's something to consider. We don't need to do anything here. We've already done that when we set up our grid. We have our GUHSD domain in the school community type. Here we have the status of our topic, so I can make it hidden, I can freeze it, that means I know students can respond, or I can continue to make it active. Again, we can also have a certain time in which the topic is active. We can add some resources, lots of different things that we could add to our grid to help our students respond to a question, think about something before they respond, link them to resources, work that they have already been doing in class as a reminder of the things that they need to think about when they respond to a discussion question. Here's a good feature right here is record a video. Besides you as a teacher putting in the question in text form, you can actually record yourself asking the question. Something that I would definitely recommend. It personalizes the topic, it personalizes the work that the students are doing a little bit by seeing you being there. They can connect with you, you're asking the questions, and that might help them also then go in and respond to the topic. So something to consider for yourself. We can add different attachments, maybe a Google Doc or a video or a Drive folder or something like that that you might want your students to refer to. The next section here are the video features. There's a lot of different things you can have students do as they respond to a topic. And what I mean by that is in how they interact with a topic. For example, when students' video is recorded, they take a selfie so their face is displayed on the grid at the end. And we'll show you examples of that here in just a little bit. And so they can go in and actually customize their selfie a little bit with a lot of different things, stickers and drawings. You can have certain things turned on, turned off if you like to. I'm just going to leave everything turned on for the moment. Video reactions, perhaps you want students to view other students' video and give them a like, a thumbs up, kind of like a Twitter or Instagram or something like that. You can record a counter of how many views that video had. This attachment link here allows students to connect an external link of some sort into their video. Perhaps they created an Adobe Spark video and you'd like them to upload that into their Flipgrid. So you can then have that video link or that attachment link visible to others outside of the grid, because you can share these grids and topics within the grids publicly to others if you'd like to. For example, embed them into a website, or they can still have that link in there, but you don't want anybody else outside of your students to view whatever link they had, whatever video that they're attaching to or something like that. And so you can then make those external links private. Only those who have access to the grid can see them, like yourself. Or if you don't want them to do anything with an attachment link, you can turn this completely off. You can allow students to reply to one another. Students reply on the grid, a student will click on somebody else's work, listen to their discussion, and then turn around and then video respond to that discussion. So a great way to have a discussion of a certain topic last a long time that students can continue to come back to as they gain new knowledge and amend and add to their own information, as well as respond to other students. I also see this a lot with world languages. We want world languages and our students to be talking in that language that they're learning. And so this is a good way for them to have a conversation back and forth with one another, or hear a conversation of other students that went back and forth with one another. And so this is a really, really nice features and one of the powers of using Flipgrid. And then, of course, students can add possibly a title to their own video response as well if you want them to do that. Lastly, in section 7, you'll see there's feedback. Flipgrid has a basic rubric already built in, so you don't have to do anything. So once you view student responses, you can use that quick little rubric that's there. With that as well, we'll go over this a little bit more detail a little bit later, but you can also go in and give your students different kinds of feedback, text-based feedback, or record yourself giving your students feedback on the responses they made. And there's also a feature where you can actually customize your rubric or upload a rubric, because you might want to have some specifics on the type of responses your students need to have and grade them based on that. And so you could upload your own rubric or create your own rubric. So I'm going to leave pretty much everything that you saw turned on for now, and then I'm going to then create my topic. Once I click on that button, you'll see this window that pops up. It's just telling me some basic information. Here is my flip grid and the flip code that goes associated with my grid. Here's that direct link to my grid. But remember, if you give students this link, it'll display all the topics. And if you do this over a period of time, you might have a lot of topics displayed in your grid. I may not want that. I want my students to go directly to that topic and respond to that topic. And so I just created this topic on reflections. And so this is the link right here that I would share with my students. I can post that into Google Classroom, and have it ready to go. And once they click on that link, it takes them directly into this reflection topic, and students can then start answering, as opposed to going into the main grid and trying to scroll down and find which topic that they're trying to answer and then click it from there. So I highly recommend that direct link to your topic. Okay, so there is now, you'll notice my topic details, and so I didn't add an image or anything like that. I have no students who've responded yet, so everything is blank at the moment. But you'll notice here is my question, and so it's ready to go. I just need to share this link with my students and get them to start responding. So let's take a moment and talk about how students respond to the topic that we just created. And I want to start back into the menu item titled My Grids, and so there I am. Here are, again, the different grids that I've created. I'm going to open my Trailblazer grid. Once I get there, you'll notice here is the topic we just created. Now, there's a bunch of information here. This will lead me directly into the topic. This is actually a useful feature here. If you want to see what the student side looks like, you can click this button and see that. I have my topic active, which of course I want because I want students to respond to this topic. I can share my topic directly from here. If I click on that button, here I have Share with Class. Here is the Flipgrid code that goes directly to this topic, not to my grids, right? Not to the grid for Trailblazers, but to the reflection topic itself. And I can either copy and paste that, or you can link your Google Classroom to this account, and then you can share it directly here into Google Classroom. And then you'll notice here at the end, there's a lot of actions, different things that we can do with our grid. Again, these are things that we could talk about later when we meet in a one-on-one session as we start leveling up through the uses of Flipgrid with your students. So I'm going to click here real quick into my topic. This is what we looked at before. Here is the question I asked. And then again, I can share my topic directly from here into Google Classroom or just grab that link. Okay? Now, let's say I'm a student. I click on that link I shared in Google Classroom. What does that look like, and how would students respond to the topic and the question that I asked? In this case, what do you think about Flipgrid? So how do I look at the student view? Well, you can do that a couple ways. One, I can just click here where it says View as Student, right? There's the flip code. And then as I mentioned, if I go back to my grid details and see all the different topics, I can also click from here to View as a Student. So I'm going to do exactly that. Now again, I'm going into the student view. So I need to log in then as if I was a student going into the grid. So as a student, they'd come here. I'd log in with my Google account. They're on Chromebook, so that's really easy. Connect that specific Google account. Again, they have to connect their GUHSD account. They might be using some personal accounts on their Chromebooks, so remind them it's their GUHSD account. So here's the student view. I've selected it, I've gone in as a student, I linked my account, and then this is what I see. Here's the question I need to ask. If I uploaded a video of me as the teacher asking that question, it would show up somewhere up here as well. And then now as a student, I read that question, I am ready to respond. Well, how do I do that? I select this plus button that you see here. So I select the plus button, and there I am ready to record. Okay? So a couple things here then. There's a lot of different options. One, you'll notice there's a sticky right here. I can click on that sticky and I can write some notes to help me remember a few things that I might want to say as I record my response to the video. So there's that feature. Here's some options down here. I can change the camera size. I usually just have my students do the 16:9. Whether I want the audio on or off, I'm not sure why you'd want it off at this point. Definitely want it on. And here's where you can import a video. Maybe they've responded in another platform, and then they can upload their video here. Okay? Um, also you can also use this part too. Let's say they have created some sort of project and they want to upload that project video, they can do so here. Not only can you use Flipgrid to have students respond and see them responding, but they can upload a small project like an Adobe Spark into Flipgrid, and they can have just a big wall now of all your student projects where other students can see the projects, view it, and then respond directly to the project. So something to definitely consider as you're moving forward. So there's also right over here the record button, which I can go in and click. And then here's the topic card at the top right corner. And when I select that, I can see again the question to remind myself what is it that I'm really responding to. So there's those items there. Once I'm ready, I can click on the record button. And then I can then start recording. And you can see it's recording right now. Okay, yeah, I've recorded. I like what I hear. I like what I say. Great. I can pause. Oh, wait, I want to respond to something else. I forgot to add something, and so I can click on that record button, and it'll continue recording. So students can pause and record several times throughout that time frame that you gave them for the responses. You'll notice, oh man, I didn't like this. I can trash it and start over. Here's my sticky with my reminders on it if I chose to do some reminders and have that up there ready to go before I record. I'm happy with what I saw. I'm happy with what I said. And so I'm going to click on next. So on this page, there's a lot of other options. This is kind of the review page. Students can go and review what it is that they just recorded. If they don't like it, they can trash it. Again, there's the stickies if they need to remind themselves of what they were supposed to address, and they can review their video. They can add a title to their video if they so choose, or if that's something that you want them to do. Here's that attachment of attaching some sort of external link from an outside source, or where did they get their evidence from? And so they can attach that link into their discussion if you need them to do that. There's also a trimming feature, so maybe the students started out and were thinking and they didn't say anything, or at the end they forgot to hit the pause button. Instead of re-recording the whole segment, they could trim their video from the end and get the piece that really says the answer to their discussion question. Again, as they're watching and reviewing this, they can always refer back to the topic card and that question. And then for whatever reason, if they want to download their the discussion response, they can do so here as well. So here are the different features of the review section of editing the response. On this last one here is the last slide. I can do a couple different things here because what it's asking me to do is take a selfie. So I've already recorded my response. I'm ready now to display myself onto that big grid with my response. And so I can take then a picture. Okay, and then this is where students can customize and add those stickers or emojis and things like that that you might have allowed them to do as part of the parameters, as part of the preferences for your topic that we discussed in the previous section. So I did everything. I'm ready to go. Yep, that looks good to me. I'm going to submit now my selfie as well as my response. And then there I am. So as your students respond, each one of them will be displayed onto this grid. And when a whole class has finished, you'll see them all here. Okay? Again, we're in the student view though, so let's say I am ready to now take a look at all these different videos. And so I'm going to flip back now into the teacher view so you can see how we could access these videos and start giving students feedback on what it is that they did. So for this part, I wanted to go back and take a look at what a topic looks like when all students have responded to the topic. So we've seen how a topic is created. We've seen how students can respond to the topic. And now if you're ready to view your students' videos, what does that look like? So I switched to a different account because in this account I have several topics that have been responded to. And so I'm going to look at a couple here. The one I'll look at is this one, another reflection one. So I'm going to select that one. Now again, I'm in the grid. This is one of the topics, reflection within the grid, and then I want to view the student videos, so I select reflection. And this one, you'll notice that I did put in a video of myself asking my students the question, and so it looks a little bit different up here. And then if you scroll down, here you can see a quick snapshot of all your students and the video responses that they have. And so you can go and start clicking on a student. So I'm going to start with Megan up here. And here's where you can see those responses. It opens up in a nice window. You'll notice I have an opportunity to give my students feedback, selecting some sort of grade or performance with the basic rubric. I can leave my students comments. I can email students comments here. Or if I want to, I can click on this and actually add my own video response to students. And so if you get tired of typing sometimes and you just want to talk, this is a good spot for you to be able to do that. Okay. And so I'll just close that and go back here. And then once I'm done with Megan's video here, I can select the next one. It goes to the next student, and then here I am now ready to grade this students. There are a couple other little features here that we can talk about when we meet one-on-one, but these might be useful to you if you want to accumulate students' responses, if you want to use a student response because you thought it was so great as a way to spark an additional discussion in a brand new topic, or if you want to just star a student's response as an exemplar response, there's a couple of different options you have from here. So this is how you'd go through and grade your students or check on your students' responses. And so it's pretty easy. There's a lot of different drop downs and actions and things like that that you can do with the student's video. So that's just a quick look at how you can look at students' responses, grade students' responses, and give them feedback if necessary. We wanted to call your attention to the Google Classroom for this Flipgrid Trailblazers program. Especially the tab up on top where it says Classwork, where you'll find a variety of resources for you. You'll notice that these items are divided into two groups, the Flipgrid Trailblazer process and then Flipgrid resources. Under the Trailblazer process, you'll find the information about our Trailblazer program, the video that you're watching right now. You'll find the planning guide, which we'd like you to fill out along the way as you create your lessons. There's also pieces in there for reflection, goal setting, and notes as you meet with the DLC. We'd also like you to submit the lessons that you create in our Trailblazer lesson tracker. Again, for Flipgrid, you need to submit 3 unique Flipgrid lessons into the tracker. Further down, you'll find the Flipgrid resources. Lots of information in our Tech Vault. We have all the different levels of use of Flipgrid from level 1 all the way to level 3, so you can see and track where you're at and track your progress along this program. The Flipgrid Help Center. If you're interested to see how Flipgrid can be integrated in your content area, there is a specific link here for different documents that are sorted by subject area, and they have nice resources and information and suggestions on how you could use Flipgrid in your specific content areas. Also, there is some information about how to use Flipgrid in the classroom, 25 different ways. And then lastly, you'll find at the bottom some tips for making good video responses that you can share with your students. And one last and final note, Please don't hesitate to reach out to any of the digital learning coaches. We'd be happy to answer any questions you may have about the Trailblazer program or your specific application that you might be using. And of course, you can always find more resources at tech.guhsd.net. Good luck out there, Trailblazers.